I'm Emily, a 27-year-old artist in Seattle, caught in a love that burned bright until it broke me. My boyfriend Nathan's smile lit up my world, but his temper cast shadows. One fight tore us apart. He called it quits, slamming the door on our dreams. The next day, we texted, calling each other babe, promising to fix things. But then I found texts on his phone. Another woman, Olivia, and a date he took her on while we were still tethered by love. He swore it wasn't cheating. I called it betrayal. Heartbroken, I confronted him, but his excuses only deepened the wound. I walked away, vowing to find my worth. Seattle became my canvas, new friends, new art, new hope. Lucas, a kind architect, sketched his way into my life, offering trust I'd forgotten existed. Nathan's apology came too late. I'd already chosen myself. My mural rose, my heart healed, but shadows lingered. Could I love again? Would Lucas be my future, or just a moment? Every step was a risk, every stroke a rebellion. I rebuilt my life, but the past still whispered. Stay with us to find out how my story ends, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Emily, a 27-year-old graphic designer living in the vibrant, rain-soaked city of Seattle. My life, until recently, felt like a carefully curated gallery of moments, some bright, some shadowed, but all mine. For the past 10 months, I'd been dating Nathan, a 32-year-old software engineer with a sharp wit and a smile that could light up the gloomiest Pacific Northwest day. We met at a cozy coffee shop in Capitol Hill, where he spilled his latte on my sketchbook, apologized profusely, and somehow convinced me to let him buy me dinner to make up for it. That was the beginning of us, or so I thought. Our relationship wasn't perfect. Nathan had a temper that flared like a sudden storm, and I'd learned to navigate his moods with care. But when things were good, they were electric. Late-night drives along Puget Sound, whispering dreams under the stars, and laughing until our sides ached. I loved him, fiercely, even when his edges cut. 3 months into our relationship, we had a fight that shook the foundation of what we built. It was over something small, a cancelled weekend trip to the Olympic Peninsula, but it escalated fast. Harsh words flew like daggers, and by the end of the night, Nathan stormed out of my apartment, slamming the door behind him. We're done, Emily, he shouted, his voice echoing in the stairwell. I stood there, stunned, my heart a tangle of anger and grief. The next morning, I woke up to a text from him. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, torn between pride and longing. I typed back. I still love you, Nathan, but you hurt me. I'm willing to talk, but we need to fix this. We texted throughout the day, our messages laced with the pet names we'd always used, babe, sweetheart, love. It felt like a lifeline, a promise that we weren't truly over. By evening, we'd agreed to meet the next day to work things out. For those 2 days we were apart, my phone buzzed constantly with his calls and texts, each one pulling me back toward him. Fast forward to last week. I was at Nathan's apartment in Fremont, curled up on his couch with a glass of wine, when he left his phone on the coffee table to grab a snack. Something, a nagging instinct, a whisper of doubt, urged me to pick it up. I'd never snooped before, it wasn't me. But that night, my fingers moved before my brain could catch up. I unlocked his phone, he'd given me the passcode months ago, and scrolled through his messages. That's when I saw her name, Olivia. The texts were from that brief period we'd been broken up, a mere 48 hours when I thought we were still tethered by love. The first message was dated the day after our fight. Hey Olivia, it's Nathan. Free for drinks tonight? My stomach churned as I read on. They met at a trendy bar in Belltown, laughing over cocktails, planning a second date. The texts were flirty, intimate, the kind you send when you're testing the waters of something new. My hands shook as I scrolled further. The messages stopped abruptly the day Nathan and I reconciled, as if Olivia had been erased from his life as quickly as she'd entered it. I sat there, frozen, the wine turning sour in my mouth. When Nathan returned, I held up his phone, my voice trembling. Who's Olivia? His face paled, but he didn't hesitate. It's not what you think, Em. We were broken up. It didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything? I snapped, my voice rising. You went on a date, Nathan. A day after you told me you loved me. You were texting me, babe, while you were planning drinks with her. He crossed his arms, defensive. We were done, Emily. I didn't cheat. I wouldn't have done it if we hadn't broken up. His words hit like a slap. No apology, no remorse, just a stubborn insistence that he'd done nothing wrong. I grabbed my coat and left, tears stinging my eyes as I drove home through the rain-slicked streets. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I texted Olivia. I found her number in Nathan's phone and sent a polite, shaky message. "Hi, this is Emily, Nathan's girlfriend. I saw your texts. Can we talk?" To my surprise, she responded within minutes, her tone warm and apologetic. "I'm so sorry, Emily. I had no idea he was still involved with you. We went out once, that's it. He told me he was single." Olivia's kindness was a small balm on a gaping wound. She confirmed what I'd feared. Nathan had pursued her without a hint of hesitation, spinning a story of being free and unattached. I thanked her, my heart sinking further as I realized the man I loved had lied so effortlessly. Over the next few days, I replayed every moment of our relationship, searching for clues I'd missed. Nathan's bursts of anger, his tendency to shut me out when things got tough, the way he dismissed my feelings when I tried to talk. The date with Olivia wasn't just a betrayal. It was a symptom of something deeper, a crack in the foundation I'd ignored for too long. I met Nathan one last time at a quiet cafe in Ballard, the kind of place where the hum of conversation feels like a shield. I needed closure, or at least an answer. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. "If it was so innocent, why hide it?" He leaned back, jaw tight. "I didn't think it mattered. It was one date, Emily. You're blowing this out of proportion." That was when I knew. It wasn't just about the date, or the texts, or even Olivia. It was about trust, about the kind of love that doesn't leave room for secrets. Nathan didn't see it as cheating, but to me, it was a violation of everything we'd promised each other. Even in those fleeting days we were apart, we'd been tethered by words of love, by late-night calls and tearful texts. He'd chosen to step outside that bond, and he couldn't, or wouldn't, see why it hurt. I ended it there, in that cafe, with the rain pattering against the windows. "I deserve better," I said, and for the first time, I believed it. Nathan didn't argue, didn't chase after me as I walked away. Maybe he knew I was right. The weeks that followed were a blur of grief and rediscovery. My apartment, once a sanctuary filled with memories of Nathan, felt both too big and too small. I'd catch myself staring at the couch where we'd spent countless evenings, or the kitchen counter where he'd tried, and failed, to teach me how to make his mom's lasagna. Each memory was a double-edged sword, sweet, then sharp. I packed away the photos, the little notes he'd left on my fridge, the hoodie he'd forgotten in my closet. I didn't throw them out, I wasn't ready. But I tucked them into a box and slid it under my bed, out of sight. I threw myself into work, letting the rhythm of deadlines and creative briefs anchor me. My latest project was a branding campaign for a local bookstore, and I poured my heart into it, sketching logos late into the night, the glow of my tablet a quiet companion. My colleagues noticed the change, my focus, my drive, and one of them, Sarah, became an unexpected ally. She'd been through a rough breakup a year earlier and seemed to sense the weight I was carrying. Over coffee breaks, she'd listen as I unraveled my thoughts, never judging, always offering just the right mix of empathy and tough love. "You're stronger than you think, Em," she said one day, stirring her latte. "You walked away because you knew your worth. That's not small." Her words stuck with me, a quiet mantra for the days when doubt crept in. Was I too harsh? Had I overreacted? The questions gnawed at me, especially late at night when the city's hum faded and my thoughts grew loud. But then I'd remember Olivia's texts, Nathan's defensiveness, the way he'd dismissed my pain. It wasn't just about a single date. It was about a pattern, a truth I'd been too in love to see. One evening, about a month after the breakup, I decided to venture out alone. I'd been avoiding our old haunts. Every corner of Seattle seemed to hold a piece of Nathan, but I was tired of hiding. I chose a small jazz bar in Pioneer Square, a place we'd never visited together. The air was thick with the scent of whiskey and candle wax, and a saxophonist wove soulful notes through the crowd. I ordered a gin and tonic and settled into a corner booth, letting the music wash over me. That's when I met Lucas. He was sitting at the bar, sketching on a napkin, his brow furrowed in concentration. Something about the way he moved his pencil, deliberate, almost tender, caught my eye. I recognized that focus. It was the same way I felt when I was lost in a design. Before I could overthink it, I walked over and asked, "What are you drawing?" He looked up, startled, then grinned. Just trying to capture the vibe of this place. I'm terrible at it, though. He held up the napkin, which showed a wonky outline of the stage and a few abstract shapes that might have been people. I laughed, the sound surprising me. It's got character. Mind if I join you? Lucas was an architect, 29, with warm brown eyes and a quiet confidence that put me at ease. We talked for hours that night, about art, music, the way Seattle's skyline seemed to shift with the weather. He wasn't pushy, didn't pry, but when I mentioned I'd been through a rough patch, he nodded like he understood. This city's good for healing, he said. It's got a way of holding you, even when you're falling apart. We exchanged numbers, and over the next few weeks, Lucas became a steady presence. Not a replacement for Nathan, God, no, but a friend, someone who saw me as I was, not as I'd been. We'd meet for coffee in Queen and wander through Pike Place Market, or sketch together in Gasworks Park, the city sprawling below us. He'd tease me about my obsession with perfect line work, and I'd fire back about his questionable taste in sci-fi novels. It was easy, light, the kind of connection I hadn't realized I'd been craving. But Nathan wasn't entirely gone. 6 weeks after our breakup, he texted me. Can we talk? I miss you. My heart lurched, a traitor to my resolve. I didn't respond right away, but the message sat there, heavy, pulling at old wounds. Part of me wanted to hear him out, to believe he'd changed. Another part, the stronger part, knew better. I agreed to meet him, but not at a cafe or anywhere too intimate. We chose a bench by Lake Union, neutral ground where the water's calm could temper whatever came next. He looked tired, his usual polish dulled by shadows under his eyes. I messed up, Em, he said, his voice low. Not just with Olivia, but with you. I didn't see how much I was hurting you. It was the apology I'd wanted months ago, but now it felt like too little, too late. Why now? I asked. Why not when it mattered? He shrugged, helpless. I didn't get it then. I thought I was in the right. But losing you, it's made me look at myself. I'm trying to be better. I studied him, searching for the man I'd loved. He was still there, in the curve of his jaw, the way he fidgeted with his keys. But the spell was broken. I didn't want to fix him, didn't want to carry the weight of his growth. I'm glad you're trying, I said, meaning it. But I can't be part of it. I need to move forward. He nodded, and for the first time, I saw something like respect in his eyes. We parted without promises, without tears. Just two people who'd loved each other once, now walking separate paths. The months that followed were a slow unfolding. I leaned into my work, landing a freelance gig designing a mural for a community center in West Seattle. The project consumed me, each brushstroke a step toward reclaiming my spark. Sarah and I grew closer, our coffee breaks turning into weekend hikes in the Cascades, where we'd shout our dreams into the wind. Lucas remained a constant, too, not a boyfriend, not yet, but a possibility, a reminder that trust could be gentle, not jagged. I started writing again, something I hadn't done since college. Not stories, but reflections, letters to myself, to the Emily who'd loved Nathan, to the Emily who was learning to love herself. I filled a notebook with them, each page a small victory. One night I wrote, "You are not your mistakes or his. You are the art you create, the risks you take, the heart that keeps beating." Seattle became my canvas. I explored new neighborhoods, from the colorful chaos of Fremont to the quiet charm of Magnolia. I joined a pottery class, laughing as my lopsided bowls collapsed under my novice hands. I volunteered at the bookstore I'd designed for, reading to kids on Saturday mornings, their wide-eyed wonder a balm for my soul. There were still hard days. I'd hear a song we loved, or catch a whiff of Nathan's cologne on a stranger, and the ache would return. But it was softer now, less like a wound and more like a memory. I let myself feel it, then let it go. One evening, 9 months after the breakup, I stood on the roof of my apartment building, the city glittering below. Lucas was there, sketching the skyline, his shoulder brushing mine. We'd been spending more time together, our friendship teetering on the edge of something deeper. I wasn't ready to jump, but I was ready to lean in, to see where it led. "You ever think about how much can change in a year?" he asked, his pencil pausing. I smiled, the wind tugging at my hair. All the time. I thought of Nathan, of Olivia, of the cafe in Ballard where I'd chosen myself. I thought of Sarah's laughter, my mural taking shape, the notebook full of words I'd fought for. I thought of this moment, here, with Lucas, the city holding us both. "I'm glad I'm here," I said, and it was true. The next year was a tapestry of growth, woven with threads of courage and discovery. My mural project became a cornerstone of my portfolio, earning me a feature in a local art magazine. The exposure led to new clients, and soon I was juggling commissions for restaurants, nonprofits, and even a tech startup in South Lake Union. Work wasn't just a distraction anymore, it was a passion, a way to leave my mark on the city I loved. Sarah and I continued our adventures, trading hikes for kayaking trips on Lake Washington and impromptu road trips to the San Juan Islands. She was more than a friend now, she was family, the kind of person who could read my silences and know exactly when to push or pull back. One night, over a bottle of wine in her cozy Beacon Hill apartment, she raised her glass and said, "To us, and to never settling for less than we deserve." I clinked my glass against hers, feeling the weight of her words. To us. Lucas and I grew closer, but we took our time. Neither of us wanted to rush, to blur the lines between healing and falling. We'd spend evenings at his place in Green Lake, cooking dinners that were more experimental than edible, or we'd wander the Burke-Gilman Trail, debating the merits of brutalist architecture versus Art Deco. He was patient, steady, and when he looked at me, I felt seen, not as a project to fix, but as a person, whole and enough. One afternoon, about a year after our first meeting, we were at the Chihuly Garden in Glass, marveling at the swirling glass sculptures that seemed to defy gravity. Lucas turned to me, his expression soft but serious. "I like this, Em. Us. I don't want to push, but I want you to know I'm here, whenever you're ready." My heart fluttered, a mix of fear and hope. I wasn't fully healed, maybe I never would be, not completely. But I was ready to try, to open my heart to something new. "I'm getting there," I said, squeezing his hand. "Just stay with me?" He smiled, and it was enough. Nathan reappeared briefly, like a ghost from a half-forgotten dream. A year and a half after our breakup, I ran into him at a tech conference in downtown Seattle, where I was presenting a design workshop. He was in the audience, his face a mix of surprise and something softer, regret maybe. After my talk, he approached me, his hands stuffed in his pockets. "You were amazing up there," he said. "I always knew you were talented, but wow." "Thanks," I replied, my voice neutral. I wasn't angry anymore, but I wasn't nostalgic either. He was just a man, not a myth. "I'm sorry, Em. For everything. I've been working on myself, trying to understand where I went wrong. I hope you're happy." I studied him, noting the lines on his face, the sincerity in his eyes. He was different, or at least trying to be. But it didn't change the past, didn't erase the lessons I'd learned. "I am," I said simply. "Take care, Nathan." He nodded, and we parted ways, the conference hall buzzing around us. It was closure, not the kind I'd sought in that Ballard cafe, but the kind that comes with time and distance. As the second year unfolded, I began to see myself differently, not as the woman who'd been betrayed, but as the artist, the friend, the dreamer who'd rebuilt her life. I started a blog, sharing my sketches and reflections on art, love, and resilience. It was a small thing at first, a creative outlet, but it grew, connecting me with readers across the world who saw themselves in my words. I called it Lines of Light, a nod to the way beauty can emerge from brokenness. My pottery skills improved, and I gifted Sarah a slightly less lopsided vase for her birthday, which she displayed proudly despite its quirks. I took up yoga, finding peace in the rhythm of breath and movement, and joined a book club, where I debated literature with a group of strangers who became friends. Seattle, with its endless layers, kept unfolding, new cafes, new trails, new corners to claim as my own. Lucas and I crossed the line from friends to something more, though we never labeled it. We were partners in the truest sense, building something grounded in trust and mutual respect. One night, as we watched the sunset from Alki Beach, he turned to me and said, "You're my favorite adventure." I laughed, leaning into him. "You're mine too." 2 years after the breakup, I stood in the community center where my mural hung, surrounded by friends, colleagues, and strangers who'd come to celebrate its unveiling. The design was bold, a cascade of colors and shapes that told a story of resilience, inspired by my own journey. As I spoke to the crowd, thanking them for their support, I caught Lucas's eye, then Sarah's, and felt a surge of gratitude. Later, as the event wound down, I stepped outside, the cool night air brushing my skin. The city stretched before me, alive with possibility. I thought of Nathan, of the pain that had once defined me, and of the woman I'd become. The betrayal had been a fracture, but it hadn't broken me. It had pushed me to rebuild, to choose myself, to create a life that was mine alone. I pulled out my notebook, the one I'd filled with letters to myself, and wrote one final entry. Dear Emily, you are not the end of one story, but the beginning of countless others. Keep drawing, keep loving, keep growing. The world is yours. As I closed the notebook, the stars above Seattle blinked like promises. I was home, not just in this city, but in myself. And that, I knew, was the truest victory of all.